It's the Mustang Insider Show presented by Cal Portland, the largest building materials company of cement and construction material products on the West Coast. Now, here's Chris Sylvester, the voice of the Mustangs.
You're tuned in to another edition of the Mustang Insider presented by Cal Portland as we roll along the early stages of 2022 winter sports in the thick of their seasons. We start to take a look at some of the spring sports starting very, very soon. Cal Poly women's tennis gets it going this weekend up in Berkeley. Cal Poly men's tennis will host many matches in this 2022 season. Nick Carless, head coach in his 10th season. It's been a decade since he was brought to Cal Poly to lead the men's tennis program. And after winning a Big West Conference regular season title a season ago, I know the aspirations, the expectations are high coming into this 2022 campaign. Coach, it looks like you're enjoying another beautiful Central Coast afternoon, about a week away from the start of the season. How are you feeling about everything as we close in on a new campaign?
I couldn't be more excited. I mean, this is always the best time of year, with tennis being a year-round sport. You've got that fall season that can kind of drag out, to be honest, but it's an important time of year where, players are developing and working on their game. But now's the team season. Now's that real fun time of year where we get to go out there and compete against the best schools in the country. And, we're ready for it. We can't wait to get going here at home.
Yeah, you mentioned there's no real off season for you guys, kind of able to play year round. Of course, this time of year is when the wins and losses will start to count towards the record. And obviously you guys will get into the Big West sooner rather than later here this spring. Take me through the off season, and I'd imagine a much more normal off season coming off the shortened 2020 season and all the uncertainty and restrictions you had to deal with going into 2021. Did you feel like for the first time in a couple of years, you guys as a coaching staff and your student athletes were really able to make some improvements and seek certain things during this past off season?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest difference would have been, in 2020, we didn't even, our team season got canceled in March when the pandemic begun. But then we didn't even have a fall in 2020, which we weren't allowed to go compete. We were very fortunate enough to be able to practice, which is not the case for everybody in our conference. So this past fall was actually our first fall in 2 years where we were able to not just practice, but actually get on the road and compete. And that's an important time of year, even though it's not the team time of year. That's the time of year where, your guys can play a host of matches and, pursue national rankings, regional rankings. But even just outside the rankings, it's the time for a tennis player to really develop and get the tons of match play that you need to have. So it's not really an off season in that sense, because that fall season in Division I tennis is still an important time of year and a lot of things to play for. But obviously, I think every college tennis player really loves this team season. And we were just grateful to be able to have a fall last year where we could travel and we could compete and get those much needed tournament matches that I think just prepare you a lot more for the team season. But, the guys on our team and the players in our conference, a lot of them want to play professional tennis, and they certainly have those aspirations. And, if you look at the ATP Tour, there really is only maybe 6 to 8 weeks where there's not a lot of matches going on, and that's towards the end of the season during the holidays. But yeah, I mean, being a Division I tennis player or a professional tennis player is an 11-month endeavor, and but we're excited for the next 4 months and the team season. That's for sure.
Nick Carless, our guest on the Mustang Insider, presented by Cal Portland. Cal Poly Tennis, they will open up the new season at home against San Francisco, 12 at home this season. And I know that's something you want to capitalize on compared to the 9 matches you have away from San Luis Obispo. Before we kind of preview what you're hoping 2022 will be for your program, let's kind of talk about your tenure here at Cal Poly. It's been a decade since you took over this program. How much has athletics at this level changed in the last decade? Now, there's so much attention towards college football, college basketball, with March Madness, expansion in college football at the highest level, the one-time transfer rule. That applies everywhere. And you made a couple of transfer additions to your roster this offseason. So how much has the recruiting changed How much more do you take a look at the transfer portal compared to maybe recruiting the high school level, like you probably did much more about a decade ago when you came here?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's changed a lot, and that's the short end of that answer. But really, I think 2 points I would say is, especially in tennis, recruiting has changed dramatically with some rule changes that happened a couple years ago. You'll see a lot of kids that are juniors committing to universities, 2 years out before they'll even hit a tennis ball for that school. I'm not one of the people that believes that that's actually good for the student athletes, because I think that there's a lot of value in taking visits to schools, and if you're committing to a school that you've got 2 years before you'll even play there. I mean, a lot of the players on that team will be gone. It could be a completely different dynamic, but just from a development standpoint, you can change a lot physically, in those last 2 years of high school, and that can dramatically change how you play the game of tennis. Someone who might be on the shorter end of it and not that strong is going to be much more of a baseliner and quote unquote a grinder, not to use too much tennis vernacular, but someone who just kind of plays tennis by a war of attrition and makes a lot of balls and is very physical. But then if you shoot up to above 6 feet and you're 6'1", 6'2", and all of a sudden you're 20 pounds stronger going into your senior year and you've got a lot more weapons, your game style is going to be a lot more attacking. And so I think it's been challenging for coaches to try to keep up with some of the Power 5 conferences that have the ability to have recruiters on the road at all times and have a lot of money to be able to bring recruits in, whether on unofficial or official visits. And so I think sometimes you might feel at a mid-major that there's an advantage for those schools to get those early commits. But again, it doesn't bother me too much, because I'm not someone who looks to try to sign these guys 2 years out, because I just would much rather know exactly what I'm getting and see these guys, when they're more of a year out or a year and a half out from hitting a college tennis ball. And so to the recruiting standpoint, I think that's the biggest change, the ability for kids to commit and come on visits their junior year. And then, a lot of the legislation around name, image, and likeness, and the ability for student athletes to expand their brand while at a university. I mean, that's impacting recruiting as well, because some universities, have the infrastructure and are selling the ability to sign, Tom Smith and expand their brand when they get there. So that's just an interesting, part of it that I think, 10 years ago, I never really could have foreseen. But I think are all good things that are happening, that are changing and advancing college athletics. And again, the final thing I've really noticed is, there's kind of an arms race again at some of these, at every school really, to build bigger and better facilities and give your athletes, better dining accommodations and, strength and conditioning facilities and sports medicine facilities. And so it is a lot of, it seems sometimes like professional sports in terms of these resources that are going into building these programs. And definitely in the last 10 years, you've seen that almost seem to accelerate at an exponential rate.
Nick Carless, again, our guest on the Mustang Insider. Cal Poly men's tennis coming off a very proud campaign in 2021. I know you guys fell ultimately short of the goal to win the conference tournament a season ago, but 14-8 record. You finished 72nd in the country, winning the Big West regular season title for the first time since 2013, went undefeated in the Big West for the first time since 2012, and in that tournament championship for the 5th time in the last 6 seasons. I know that you guys really want to get over the hump and compete at the national level beyond the Big West tournament here in 2022, but you bring back a lot of talent from a very accomplished season in 2021. Noah Berry, who was the Big West Freshman of the Year, he's back. Redshirt sophomore Joe Leather, he was a second-team all-conference selection in doubles. And then the redshirt junior, Gary Vardanian, he was an honorable mention all-conference selection in doubles a season ago. And obviously Fernando Francesca, who led the team in singles wins. He also compliments a few newcomers that you have on this 2022 roster. You have to be excited about what's coming back. And Coach, I haven't really been around the team a whole lot, as you have been, as you guys gear up for your season opener next week against San Francisco at home. But this got to be a group that has a chip on their shoulder. They accomplished so much last season, came up just short in that final match in the Big West tournament. There's got to be a lot of fuel coming into this new campaign with some unfinished business, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I would say that's, I mean, for sure. I mean, I think we look a little bit on last season and are tremendously happy with what we accomplished. And but we've had goals at this program for a long time, that'll remain, and that's continuing to be a school that's always nationally ranked. But we feel strongly that we have what it takes to always be inside the top 50. We've had programs here as high as 40, or I think at one point we were 33. But I think last year's team, we were a lot better than actually what our national ranking was. I don't think the national rankings were indicative across the board last year of really what teams were. I mean, there was a lot of teams in the Midwest that couldn't even really travel and play because of COVID restrictions. And so just last year, I mean, certainly doing well in the conference, certainly getting to that conference final again, and having match points in that tournament match and just not far away. I mean, that's tennis, but having so many guys back and knowing that they have that experience to pull on, I just really like this team, and I certainly think this team has all the ingredients to accomplish some of the goals that are always I think what people expect of our program. But as much as I'd love to tell you that we're a super goal oriented program, and we really try not to focus on those things at all. Like, we try to focus, and the message I send to my guys each day is how we can just get better. And each day in and day out, I know that might be coach talk or trite or cliche, but the goals are important to us, but they're not nearly as important as us trying to find the way to be the best tennis player we can be each day. And knowing that we have good players, knowing that we have people that have experienced tough conference matches, knowing that we have a group of guys that can be here for the next few years, we're excited about this core. We know that if they put their head down and control what they can and continue to get better, I think we'll be right back there at the top of the conference, if not looking to go further. So it's interesting. We want those things. We expect those things. We know we're good, but again, it's not really what we work on each day as a team. We just trying to keep our minds, being where our feet are, so to speak. And if that happens, we have a good schedule, we have a strong schedule, and we've got a good team, and we've got a lot of good players. And I would be willing to bet on Cal Poly men's tennis to do good things this year. I'm confident in that. And I like where our guys are at. They practice the right way, they do the right things, and eventually that's gonna go well for you. So excited about the year to come, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think there definitely should be a lot of excitement about this program, fresh off what we saw in 2021. And I think there's some added excitement when you look at some of the newcomers that you've brought into the mix here in this new season. A two-time Ohio Valley Conference Player of the Year coming over from Belmont in Nashville, Tennessee, graduate student Hendrik Inno. Did I get the pronunciation on that one correctly?
Yeah.
Or is it Inno or Ino?
Inno.
It's Inno. Okay,
yeah.
So
Yeah.
you bring him in. I mean, he's highly decorated, a two-time Conference Player of the Year at the Division I level. I mean, that got to be one of the better transfers that went one place to the other this offseason in college tennis. You also bring Coulter Smith up from Southern Cal. He was 6-0 with the USC Trojans in singles a season ago. And I'm going to leave this one to you, Coach, but you have a lone true freshman coming in from the Netherlands, a three-time Dutch national singles champion, under 12, under 14. He's been heralded since his childhood, and now he's a part of your program here at Cal Poly.
Yeah, all three of those guys are gonna be impactful players this year. Bastian Westrit, our lone freshman who you just mentioned. I mean, he's just got loads of upside, big game, big serve, natural doubles player. I see him helping us out immediately, especially in the doubles lineup. It's just, doubles can be one of those things it can be difficult to teach because it is quite a bit different than the singles game. And he's got a lot of skills that will translate both to the singles court and the doubles court. And we're just looking forward to getting him healthy, getting him going this year, and seeing him in the matches. Because, there's, for freshmen more than anything, they just need to experience the matches, because you can practice all you want and drill, and there's no substitute for what it's like to be playing team tennis. And college tennis is really the first time a lot of these guys will ever play in the team environment. And so you're playing next to your teammate who can be doing well or struggling. And, you got coaches coaching, and which is not typically allowed at the junior level. So there's a lot of things for a freshman to adjust to. And I think he's doing a great job, and we're looking forward to him, helping us this year. And then the other two, the transfers, Hendrik Yeah, yeah, you mentioned his accolades, and he's arguably the best player ever to play at Belmont, and was an All-American in doubles his senior year. And so it's not every day that you get to have a transfer coming in that had All-American status. And so his ability to help us on the doubles court will stand out immediately. I think he'll help us in singles as well, but loads of experience that we'll be able to pull on from Hendrick for sure. And then our other incomer would be Coulter Smith, coming from USC. Again, a guy who's played in some big matches and some big moments in the Pac-12 for that school. And again, a guy who I think will fit in right away, brings a great intensity to practice, a strong work ethic. And really, one of those guys that just wants to be great at this sport and pursues the sport the right way. So I think I see all three of those guys being integral parts of our team this year and blending in with those guys that did good things last year.
Cal Poly has 21 regular season matches on the docket, and it gets going January 21. San Francisco is up first, followed by Sac State, St. Mary's, Pacific, LMU, San Diego State. You weren't joking when you said, look, you guys want to take advantage of the 12 out of 21 matches at home. And it looks like it's a pretty tough non-conference schedule that you've put together for your team. I'd imagine to better your chances come the Big West. Oftentimes it's coach speak, coach, but you have to play the best to be the best. And with everything that you've said to me to this point, I know you guys have aspirations and feel like you can be the best in the Big West. So when I look at a lot of these big time programs, BYU, Utah State, you go to UNLV, you've got a 3-match tournament in Tempe in late February. What are you hoping to get out of this non-conference portion of the schedule that'll help you guys be best prepared for the Big West slate when it gets going in March?
Yeah, just playing great teams. Like you said, really, it is that simple. I've my scheduling philosophy has always been to just play the best that will play us and that we're able to play. Being in the western coast of the United States, you just get such strong programs here up and down California and in Oregon and Washington and state of Nevada and Arizona. So for us, we always just try to take advantage of playing as good a schedule as we can. I'm not really interested in scheduling the guaranteed wins or whatever. I don't really believe that there's any such thing as a guaranteed win, or anybody can beat anybody in college tennis or lose to anybody. It really is that kind of sport. So, we've traditionally over the years been very good at home. I think we can get better on the road. I think, being a team that travels well is not easy to do because it's easy to get used to your court conditions and the way the wind blows at your facility and your court speed, but it's a whole different animal to be able to hop on the road and maybe have only one day of practice to get used to the different balance to the court and the different speed or the altitude. So, I think this team will be better prepared to be a better road team than we have been in the past. I think we can continue to be really strong at home, but most importantly, we have a lot of matches that we're able to play because of our location. They're all strong matches, and obviously that just prepares us as well as possible come those conference matches in March and April. And the ultimate goal is to be striking the ball the best come April.
And let's not forget there is a home winning streak. You guys haven't lost a home match. Got to go back to February of 2020, right before the shutdown. Last time Cal Poly did not come out on top at the Mustang Tennis Complex. Again, opening up the season January 21st. It's a 12:30 start against the University of San Francisco. Plenty of chances for locals and Cal Poly fans to come check out what should be a competitor, if not a favorite, in this year's Big West season. Coach Carless, thanks so much for your time. Best of luck with the rest of your preparations as you get ready for this 2022 campaign, and I look forward to another conversation here in the near future.
Great, Chris. Thanks for having us, man. Go Mustangs.
Go Mustangs. All right, so Cal Poly men's and women's tennis will be underway this time next weekend. Women are getting it going this weekend in Berkeley, and the men at home, as we mentioned, against the University of San Francisco. 12:30 start. Should be a beautiful Central Coast afternoon to watch Cal Poly men's tennis team that is expected to do some big things in this 2022 season. As always, our sponsors are what makes our content possible. AM Sun Solar. If you're worried about rising PG&E rates, go solar, pay less on your monthly bills. They've got seamless installs to custom financing solutions. They do it all. AMSunsolar.com for more information. your local solar experts. Can't forget our friends at Dignity Health. This podcast brought to you by Dignity Health, offering all-star treatment you can trust. Learn more about their healthcare services. Visit dignityhealth.org/Central Coast. Until next time, you've been watching the Mustang Insider from Learfield.
This has been the Mustang Insider Show presented by Cal Portland, with a commitment to environmental leadership that has made the organization stronger and is the primary choice of contractors. The Mustang Insider Show. The preceding has been a Learfield's presentation on the Cal Poly Sports Network.